Well, howdy, guys. Welcome back to the RedAss podcast. We are officially in November. And was remembering yesterday, the 5th of November, of course, the gunpowder treason and plot, the old
Mm.
classic for any of you V for Vendetta people who might be paying attention to that. Anyway, I'm Rob White, class of 14.
Yeah, this is Roy May fighting Texas Aggie class of 2015.
Yeah. And well, we are in November and certainly a little different feeling than how everything was looking in August.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we've had to play football games between then and now.
Right.
Yeah, you're sitting at 5-4. You're staring 7-5 in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know. I haven't seen our quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, huge tip of the cap to huge respect for Max Johnson gutting it out, broken
Mm-hmm.
ribs. Like that's the epitome of grit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I just think the game was tough. It was a tough game to watch. Um, when you sit and you kind of let it sit for 24 hours and you come back to it, it's still kind of tough to swallow. Which is really what the losses this year have all been. It's tough to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are going to be super positive out there will tell you that it's Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss. All those teams we were within a score, but the reality is we didn't get it done. So I don't really care. Like I don't really care for the moral victories. The reality is we weren't good enough to get it done, and that just yet again on Saturday we saw it. And again, we don't get out to a fast start. Ole Miss does, which was somewhat expected with their offense. But kind of roaring back a little bit in the second quarter. At halftime, I thought you kind of had to feel good about where you were, just because it's you're down not even a touch, 20-14, going into the locker room, but you're not able to do anything with it. And then every time you punch, Ole Miss punched back.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're really just at that point you were trading touchdowns, which obviously you're never going to catch up. You're finally able to get some stops, or like a stop. You're able to some stops, plural. You're able to pull it close and you're able to pull ahead, but that there's still time left. This is still an Ole Miss offense that can move. And you don't roll over and let them score by any means, but it was just kind of frustrating how everything ended up on the defensive side of the ball, especially with the ejection. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any problem really with the officiating, honestly. I thought it was bad both ways, so it was fair. It's
Mm-hmm.
SEC officiating, so it's not going to be good. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was level. I don't think anybody like the game wasn't lost on a crap call or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I firmly believe in that being a thing, but yeah, just an absolute brutal interception when you're driving and you get nothing out of it, and then just I mean, like it was watching the Cowboys and the Aggies at the end of the game. It was like the same. You have the ball to win the game, and you refuse to march forward with it. You're marching backwards. So it's just another frustrating loss, and I get that it was the number 10 team in the country, and you were on the road. But like I've been to Ole Miss twice. It's not that intimidating of an environment. It's just not.
Nope.
You had the talent to win it. You had every opportunity to win it, as a matter of fact. Not just the talent. I mean, we saw it out there on the field. You literally had opportunities to win this ball game, and you just kind of shit the bed a little bit, or a lot bit, however you want to look
Mm-hmm.
at it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, it's just another frustrating loss and another frustrating loss in the Jimbo tenure. And it's just kind of, you get numb to it. And I think we've hit a level of apathy in the fan base that is wildly dangerous. But I'm also not sitting here with $70 million to go say, let's buy him out right now. So, I mean, I guess we could talk about the game itself, but
Well, obviously, the biggest issues I've found throughout this game was, I mean, virtually every phase had a struggle point.
yeah,
Offensively, of course, I mean, yeah, we did put up a lot of points. I mean, you scored 35, and thanks obviously to special teams kicking it off with that blocked field goal return. That was good to see, of course. You know, all despite the fact that we don't have a special teams coach, which may or
which
may not
reared
have,
its ugly head again.
yeah, which very much so reared its ugly head late in the game, and it just felt throughout the matchup there was just constant issues. And the thing that we've talked about previously Defensively, we've looked pretty decent. Obviously, with the front seven, our biggest issue has been, of course, exploiting our corners, exploiting our deep threat, essentially. And unfortunately, that was the case once again. Another team, like uh, Miami did, like Alabama did, and Tennessee to an extent, they exploited matchups. They did very well to punish on the defensive side of the ball. So it's just every week we find a new creative way to lose these games in a heartbreaking fashion, and it's killing me.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Texans. I mean, it seems like they find really creative ways to blow games. Obviously, this past weekend they were able to pull it off. Amazing performance by C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
yeah, I mean, your offense scored 28 points, which, I mean, you'd love to be over 30, but you put up 28 points. I thought the defense just got absolutely destroyed during certain parts of the game. I thought the defensive play calling in the first half was interesting. But when you're talking about exploiting corners, I mean, on one side we were down to what, I guess the third string or the fourth string at one point.
Yeah.
And it's been proven, time and time again this year that DeBerry's not the answer at corner. He's not. He's a good defensive back, but he's not a corner. He's a nickel back, and he just got absolutely torched. Trey Harris just embarrassed the secondary. Again, a lot of that stuff was Jackson Dart just throwing the ball up because our secondary was so poorly out of place that literally all he had to do was throw the ball. And Jackson Dart's he's talented, so it's not hard for him to get it in the general vicinity of a receiver, and it's easy to do that as a quarterback when you know that the defensive back's not even going to pull it down. They're in fact not even going to make a play on the ball for the most part. We didn't see a whole lot of pass breakups. What we saw is receivers running wide open with our defensive backs trying to catch up. And when Dart underthrew it enough, our defensive backs were bad enough to create pass interference. So the secondary needs just 1,000% overhaul. And you're at a point in the season, and you're at a point kind of in the tenure where it's time to start talking about you need to can the defensive backs coach. Obviously defensive line and linebacker, you'd love to keep him. You need to can the offensive line coach. You probably need to have a real long talk with the wide receiver coach because they still don't seem to understand spacing. They don't seem to understand their routes. None of them really understand what they're doing. That's one of the most frustrating things on the planet. You're 9 games in and your wide receivers look like it's spring ball. They don't know what routes at what depth they're supposed to be running. It's fascinating to me how many flaws there are, and you still lose by only 3 points on the road. So all of that is assuming that you're going to keep your head coach. But he's kind of run out of mulligans, and really firing position coaches is your mulligans. Position coaches and coordinators that those are your mulligans. So I mean, if he really wants to half gut the staff, I guess he could. But then you run into the problem of everybody sees it, and everybody sees what's happening. Who wants to come coach for him?
No, who wants to come coach for him?
He may not be there but a year.
Well, I mean, who wants to come coach and who wants to come play for it? Because at this point, you're looking at, even with the recruiting, which has been like the one argument I've heard consistently, of course. Oh, but Jimbo recruiting. That's great. If we don't win games, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, results matter in the eyes of people who want to come play here and who want to come coach here.
Well, and you can get all the talent in the world, and I think that's even a bigger indictment. Like if you have all this talent and you're still losing games, then clearly at that point, it's really easy to point the finger. And I'm not one of those guys like I want a bunch of 3 stars that want to be Aggies. No, I want 4 and 5 stars, but I want somebody that's going to coach them up properly to where they can, execute.
Well, execute.
He says it a lot. And he doesn't coach it.
Well, and I mean, saying it and speaking doesn't reflect action, and we need action at this point. If you're going to instill any sort of confidence back in this fan base. And I think the only way you possibly do that is go down the stretch, win all 3 of these games in extremely convincing fashion. And knowing
third string quarterback.
Yeah, with your third string quarterback and the additional issues that have maintained. So in other words, the likelihood of that happening is a big fat 0 in my head. I could be wrong. All I know for sure, maybe Blake Boast goes out there and has an absolutely phenomenal game.
If it's Boast, I don't even know. I think it's Henderson.
I'm about
I think
to
it might be Henderson.
It might be Henderson. I truly don't know who the next quarterback is, and that is such a crazy thought.
No idea. Well, and yet again, here we are on our third string quarterback.
Again.
Here's another indictment.
Like, what's that? 9 quarterbacks that have started games that have had to leave due to injury in the last 8 years. What is going on?
I thought you were going to say in the last 2 years because it's what it's this will be our 6th starting quarterback in 2 years.
In 2 years.
Yep. That's exciting.
Because it was 3 last year and it would be 3 this year. So
and the one before that would have been 2, 8, so maybe 9 in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
Who knows? All I know for sure is the number is astounding, and it's a bad reflection on offensive line scheme, because if you can't and offensive lineman, but if you're not protecting, your most valuable commodity on the field, which is the quarterback offensively, you're not doing your damn job.
I'm gonna push my collar back. I'm getting all hot in the neck thinking about that offensive line. Well, and I think that's what's most frustrating is and you know what? In the Ole Miss game, it made it even worse, because at one point in the Ole Miss game, we just established the run and just kind of lined up and ran the ball. Like, where the hell has that been all year? I mean, where the hell has that been? And I thought Owen showed some fun flashes. I think Daniels is a fantastic back. Moss is obviously a stud. I haven't heard anything on the injury. I didn't watch the press conferences today, so I don't know about that.
Yeah.
At flip side of the ball, I don't know what the SEC rules are. I don't know if Shamar Turner is automatically out of next game, or I don't know what those kind of things are. I would guess he is. I don't know. It's in the NFL. We're going to appeal it.
Yeah, at least for a half, right? Because I mean, when did he get ejected? Second half.
Yeah, it's fourth quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we wouldn't see him until the second half of Mississippi State.
Those are the targeting rules, so I don't know if it applies the same.
Maybe, and for all we know for sure, Jimbo very well may have his own internal punishment that he may hand down. So who knows?
I'd be surprised to see him in the first half. If the conference gets involved, I'd be surprised to see him in the Mississippi State game at all. Yeah, I think they give him one game. If he'd have just punched him in the junk, I think he could maybe make a case. But then when he followed with a right cross, it's a good combo. It's a good combo.
So update as of 1:16 p.m. Jimbo Fisher said no additional discipline from the SEC or the team is coming for Shamar Turner. Turner will be available to play versus Mississippi State. So,
well, that's good news.
Answers that question. Yeah,
because he's an animal. But yeah, it was just frustrating to see that happen. Like, not Shamar, but it was frustrating to see, like, all of a sudden the light goes on and you're in game 9 in the second half and the light has gone on, and now the question is, was it the light going on for the offensive lineman or the light going on for the coordinator calling the right protections, at least the ones that they can pull off? Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like Ole Miss is some sort of massive run stopper, but you really haven't done that against anybody. You really haven't lined the ball up and just crammed it down their throat when they knew you were going to run. And so it makes it even more frustrating to know that they can do it. And so if I would have left Adazio on the tarmac, even though they had a good game, I would have left him on the tarmac a couple games ago, quite frankly. If he's still here next year, like, there will be rioting in the streets, quite possibly. The offensive line has been, and it's compounded by the fact that we're Aggies and we really do like having good offensive lines. Like, our 2 favorite things are good offensive line and good linebackers. That's our favorite things as Aggies, right?
Oh, no doubt. I would say those 2 plus. I mean, honestly, I love having a damn good punter, just personally, because I mean that's
I was
something.
Going to get to that, but all right, we'll dive into that.
I mean, that's just something that like I said, we've talked about it on the podcast before. We've had those.
Well, and kickers too,
and kickers, of course, and. We could go over that final kick at the end of the game, of course, but I mean, that's just an inch, playing for the inches, right? The old catchphrase.
Well, that's well within his range.
It is.
And people are saying he got tipped. I don't know, because the rotation of the ball looked like it didn't get tipped, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It looked like it was end under end. I'm not the guy that goes back and watches stuff when I'm, like, I don't want to see that game again. I don't want to see a single play of that game again.
Yeah. One final update for you here. So Jimbo Fisher on Max Johnson. He is unavailable for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
It's Jimbo Fisher on if Max Johnson is unavailable. Jalen Henderson would be the next quarterback, and he and Marcel Reed would play. They
Okay.
are the theory. They are 3-4. So
Okay. You haven't seen anything about Moss?
they haven't said anything.
Right.
No, at least not from what I've seen yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating. Well, but then you go back to the offensive execution, and I mean, first of all, the field goal should have been closer, but we managed to go backwards. We get lucky that a pick's not a pick because that's why defensive backs are backs and not receivers, right? Because they can't catch. Because that dude, that ball hit that dude in the breadbasket. But it's just compounding everything, and that's our bright spots. Literally, these are our bright spots for this season so far. Both of our linebackers. In fact, Ed York, and you know what? Russell has played well when he's been in. When he's rotated in, I think our linebackers and obviously our defensive line have been fantastic. The fact that Edge got left off the semifinals award is just laughable in the least.
Happens every year too.
And I can't really say that there's been a bright spot in the wide receiving core that's been a consistent bright spot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been fun to see different guys step up in different games. But, and I mean, I guess Connor was a bright spot, but we don't get to see him, So, yet again, our starting quarterback's out. And at some point, you have to realize that it's systemic of a culture or a program or however you want to word it. If you consistently get your first string quarterback hurt, and you're talking about 3 years in a row, it's probably not the quarterback.
No, that's what we like to call a trend, and we've seen this trend, and it's not a good trend. So clearly there's a lot of things that have to change on that front, and whether it will or not under this current coaching staff, yet to be seen. Probably unlikely.
And then the question is when this coaching staff changes, because it's a win. Right now, it's a win, not an if. And quite frankly, if you went out and beat LSU, who cares about 8 or 7 wins?
Yeah.
Who really cares? I mean, is there really a difference?
Well, because here's the way that
beating LSU, I guess.
No, the way the argument would go down is if we win these next 3, the question's going to be, okay, where was that in the middle of the season?
Yeah. Well,
and that happens
be
every
arguments. Time. You can make arguments either way. Like, oh, okay, well, it finally gelled. Okay, I'm not listening to that argument at all. No. And not to mention, we will have done at least some of it with a third string quarterback, which will make absolutely no sense and makes a case for no one.
Absolutely no one. And it's just not going to be a very beneficial situation for the fan base down this stretch at this point. I mean, there's not much else for us to say that we haven't already seen. And we already know where this particular road is probably heading.
Quit beating the horse. He's dead already.
Yeah.
And so then this is the big discussion, right? And I've probably seen this phrase more than anything in the past, 48 hours or so. Just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, right? That's kind of been a very favorite phrase for a lot of people. And so I'm going to come at this with this would be under the assumption that the money is ready, right? Okay. Because I'm not the one writing that kind of check. God bless those that do. But it's okay. So you rip the Band-Aid off. There's a ton of positive and negative. Positive is, look, we're just ready to move on. I think everybody can see it. Literally everyone can see it inside the locker room, in the stands, on TV, across the country, people just watching from afar and seeing highlights. This experiment has run its course. So you rip the Band-Aid off. All right, well, what happens? You lose a recruiter and you lose a bunch of recruits. Well, we weren't winning with them anyways.
Right.
Now, I think you have to look at something very aggressive on the NIL front to counteract that, which means we have to raise even more money, but to keep as many dudes in the fold as you can. And remember that maybe not all these recruits came because of Jimbo. Maybe they came because of their position coach. And now if any of them came for Adazio, they can leave with him. Yeah, seriously. But I mean, obviously, if you get a new coach, you have no idea which coordinators and position coaches are going to stay anyways. I think Petrino can because he honestly thought that he'd be able to turn it around. I don't think Petrino had any idea how bad Adazio would be at his job. I don't think any of us knew it was going to be that bad because it is bad. But I mean, so it's you either reset now or you reset in a year. And if the difference is $7.5 million, then the question becomes, is it good to save that $7.5 million?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, what can you honestly expect out of next year's results? Because even if he's willing to make a couple of position or staff position coach changes, what can you accomplish? How quickly can you accomplish that without what looks like needs to be a full sale assault on the transfer portal?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean,
you're asking for a laundry list of events to take place in a very short period of time. In a system at this point that we've seen doesn't work. So the question isn't it feels like desperation is if we're going to go down that road. And
but at
that's
what point is it not desperation? I mean, at what
yeah.
point is it a good business decision? I mean, it's not, and I get that firing a coach mid-season really does nobody any good.
Mhm.
Um, So, and I'm not necessarily saying like can him this week. I'm saying this is an end of the season firing.
It
This
is.
isn't like leave him in Baton Rouge kind of thing. Um, so this is saying when the season is over, you can him, right? Because if
Mhm.
you can at midseason, I don't think there's anything to be gained. I think you do
Mhm.
have a much quicker exodus of people in the portal just because they're like, well, if the program's quitting on, then I'm quitting too.
Mhm.
Uh, so I don't there's really nothing to gain, I think, by canning him right now. And I mean, again, it'd be coming off a 3-point loss on the road to the number 10 team in the country. That's a bit of a hard sell
It is.
from a perception standpoint. You also have to remember that as a program and an athletic department, you create your own perception when it comes to wanting to hire people. And that
Mhm.
has and that overflows into all the other sports as well. Like, do I really want to deal with this school and this AD that does coaches like this?
Mhm.
I don't
Well,
think there's anything wrong with firing position coaches in the middle of the season.
no, I think that's a perfectly understandable thing because that can fairly easily be supplemented to other either parts of the staff or elsewhere at this point because
Well, and oddly enough, when you still have some games left, I mean, sometimes maybe it galvanizes some dudes.
it might, yeah. I mean,
Maybe a
anything's
dude just
possible.
maybe whoever you move into that position just goes, look, we're going to do nothing but zone blocking for the next 3 weeks, and that's it.
Hmm.
That's
and it
it.
and it might work. And then
Yeah,
it might
block the
be.
guy in front of you, and if the guy in front of you does a stunt with the other guy, then when the other guy's in front of you, block him.
Hmm.
That's it. Like electric football. Remember old electric football? You just set the five
Hmm.
dudes, and they all just that's zone blocking. Just do that.
Hmm.
In fact, I've got an electric football set up in the attic. If they need me to bring it up to Bride, I'm happy to do so.
Of course, I used to have one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Had
I
all the NFL teams, like basically 2002 on, so all the current ones.
I randomly found mine in the attic when I was getting Halloween decorations, and I was like, yes. And mine's old.
You're right.
Like I think it was my dad's, so it's like it's outstandingly bad. Um, but yeah. So I mean, we're just kind of we're kind of in purgatory right now for football because you're not going to can your coach in the middle of this year with games left.
Hmm.
I mean, you can fire some position coaches. You're not going to fire any coordinators, although it's already happening across the country. I don't think you're going to fire anybody because if he fires Petrino, there'll be backlash that, oh, great, now you're taking the offense back. And we saw how that worked.
Hmm.
Um, I don't, dang, ain't for sure firing Durkin. I mean, I get that you gave a bunch of points to Ole Miss, but it is Ole Miss.
Well,
And
and you gave up points, and yeah, a lot. Yes, we saw. I don't know. I'm in a weird spot with Durkin right now because I want to be supportive because
because
we've been
the taste of Saturday still in your mouth.
well the taste of Saturday and just the perpetual issue that we've seen with the mismatches and not trying to play towards those a little better. I mean, you had to make one stop, like one stop, hold them short, and
Yeah.
we couldn't do that. And with the best defense in the SEC statistically, number 6 defense in the country, still gave up 38 points. Yes, it was on the road, but it doesn't matter. The fact is, you were in that game. Everybody saw that. It was just crazy to think that we were in that game.
Well, and that's the other thought too is you just had to make that one stop. Honestly, that stop could have come somewhere else in the game, and that's
It
that
could have.
also feeds in the whole like a bad call on the last play doesn't decide the game. You should have been in the place where refs can win the game for you. But I thought it was interesting with Lane Kiffin scored on us, and he felt like he had to use a trick play to do it.
Yeah.
So I know that's on the defense, but I mean, how do you scheme for? I mean, really genius, fun little play call.
Mm-hmm.
because everyone we play aren't really big into trick plays. You don't see a
No,
ton of trick plays in the SEC. I don't know why, but it just kind
they
of that's
don't.
how it feels
And
like.
but that's how you got to know going into the Ole Miss. That's the way Lane Kiffin likes to play ball, and so you got to go into there with the mindset. Unfortunately, it's like the worst possible matchup having Jimbo Fisher on one sideline and Lane Kiffin on the other, because Lane is just going to poke at you and just keep poking at you, and eventually pull off the win, which he's done the last 3 times, and it's
Yeah,
driving me
it's no
nuts.
longer eventually.
Mm-mm.
He just flat owns him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. So we opened up at like 18.5, I think, against Mississippi State, which
That's a crazy high number for our offense.
that's completely insane with a third string quarterback.
Yeah. Also that,
But
unfortunately.
again, I think we talked about this at one point. Dude, just let it rip, man. Literally, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
We don't have anything to lose right now except
Nothing.
yep. So you might
You're
as well
playing for a crappy bowl game or a slightly less crappy bowl game. That's basically where you're at this point.
yeah, you've got a 1-5 Mississippi State coming into town, and they've lost their last 2. I mean, and got absolutely destroyed by um Kentucky at home. So you got to
But
think.
Mississippi State is bad, bad, bad. Like they're
Mhm,
like, look, we're not bad, we're defunct.
yeah.
But I mean, on talent alone, you should be able to push the Mississippi State around. Granted, I can't remember how many times I've said that in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Um,
so I mean, well, now the line's showing, even on ESPN, it's showing at 19.5. So I mean, at this point, Vegas likes us, and if we don't just go out there and blow the doors off of them, there's going to be a
well,
lot of people that are going to be a little less than enthused.
and that's the indictment really on Mississippi State. I mean, that's really just how bad they are, and
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know why they ever went away from Leach's system, considering they had the coaches that were in Leach's system there. They still have Will Rogers, who
Mm-hmm.
feels like he's been there for like a 10-year contract.
Feels like
Um,
it.
but yeah,
At least he's been consistent. He's been there, you know.
yeah, yeah, I'm right. But I'm also not going to sit here and even try and do any predictions. I didn't break this down because,
Mm-hmm.
again, apathy is taking control a little bit, and not to mention, like, I have other things in my life than to break down a Texas A&M Mississippi State football game. And honestly, that's where I'm at. On talent alone, you should beat Mississippi State.
You
That's
should.
all I got.
Yep. So that would
I'm
be
just,
ideal.
I'm shocked that I'm shocked. I'm just shocked they didn't leave the Leach offense installed, but
Mm-hmm.
because I thought that was going to be the rise of a new coach if he'd have just stuck with what he knew.
Mm-hmm.
When Leach had a system there, but you know, oh well,
Oh
they
well.
suck.
Yeah. But hey, we one thing that is starting to kind of kick off here tonight, we do have basketball season getting back up into full swing. So
Yes, starts tonight at home at Reed Arena with
mhm.
Commerce. Ags are 21-point favorites. This is one of those games. I was looking at this the other day. 7 p.m. By the way, if you're hearing this and you don't know when, or you forgot that there was a game because Monday games coming out of nowhere.
Yep.
Game tonight, 7 p.m. Reed Arena against Commerce. So go Pack Reed. This is one of those games where, a couple years back, these are the gimme games, right? Because there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of gimme games in non-conference in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
What's different in basketball is, when you're trying to run your slate, you always have like an invitational or two that you're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll try and play a couple of big name games. And we have a couple of them on the slate, obviously, for us non-conference. But this is one of those non-conference that you should just go out there and roll them. And a couple years back, these were not the games that we were as comfortable, kind of like football.
Yeah.
These are the games you should be blowing their doors off, and you're not doing it. This basketball team is in a completely different place right now. And I heard somebody on the radio, I think might have been last week or the week before, just talking about the top, like when you talk about the top teams in the country over the last few years, they've been very veteran heavy.
Mm-hmm.
The sign 5 freshmen and win a trophy and all of them go to the NBA. Like those days seem to be leaving because now that you have NIL, kids can stick around a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And they can try and win championships. And I think what is it, like 2 seniors and 2 juniors and a sophomore or something like that, where the starting 5 is. So you've got a ton of experience just in the starting 5. Wade Taylor, who's considered one of the best returning guards in basketball, and that's from the national talking heads.
Mm-hmm.
That's not from Aggieland saying that. That's from, this is one of the best point guards in the nation, and that's returning. And you got to have a dude that can run the offense.
Yep.
And Wade Taylor's shown that he already can. So another year of experience certainly is not going to hurt. Um, Nobody knows what's going on with Julius Marble. All
Yeah.
you can hope is that whatever's going on, he gets it squared away and gets it fixed. The one thing about it is, if it's academic, he does have a semester to get right because
Mm-hmm.
basketball goes well into March. So
Yep.
if it's purely academic, maybe that's what he's having to hunker down on and get his grades right. It's possible. I'm not going to speculate if it's anything else. But so not having Marble, ideally you'd love to have him, but this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really looking forward to Aggie basketball. I don't think there's any reason not to be honest.
Yep. I mean, Pack Reed propaganda out here. I might as well get out to the games because there's plenty of opportunities to watch and plenty of great games coming up this year at home, which is always exciting.
Yeah, and another thing, because talking about one of the best point guards in the nation, Andy Katz. If you watch college basketball, you know who Andy Katz is because he's a big time writer for college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Wade Taylor as the top returning junior in America, not just
Mm-hmm.
point guard, like junior in America. To have that kind of experience at the point is, I don't know what that kid's making in NIL, but we need to make sure he's making plenty more.
Oh yeah. No
um,
doubt.
so I'm excited. I'm excited to watch Wade Taylor, but I'm excited to watch the whole team. I think everybody has found and if you didn't like him in the beginning because you didn't think we were winning enough games, now that we're winning enough games, it's easier for people to come around that were being jerks
Mm-hmm.
about it. Buzz Williams is a fantastic human being. He's exactly who you would want coaching your son on a
Mm-hmm.
basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's exciting for I think it's exciting for basketball fans. I am very curious about the women.
Yeah, me too.
Because last year was so tough because they played so many games with basically a wildly depleted roster. I mean, they were only almost playing, I think 6 or 7 people. They were down to that for weeks at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joni Taylor's resume speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she continuously is asked back to coach at the USA basketball level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited for basketball season on both sides. I don't know. I guess we'll just kind of see. But tonight's when it all starts. And it's on SEC Plus. So I mean, if you got or ESPN Plus or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, if you got a subscription, I'm sure I'll have the game on. Because I'm going to dinner. We're going out to dinner tonight. I'm going to dinner early so I can be home in time to watch a basketball game.
Yeah, definitely go catch that. And then be sure to also catch the women. They are going to be going on November 9th. First game against A&M Corpus Christi. So a couple of good system schools coming into town for games to kick off this week, but I'm excited.
Well, and I'll say one thing. So where the women's team is right now is where the men's team was a few years back.
Sure.
So these are the games that when you go, you're going to get a better idea. And again, like I would have to look if A&M Corpus Christi, the women's team was good because I know like the men were randomly good a couple years back. So I don't know if A&M Corpus Christi on the women's side is any good, but obviously as it gets close to the game, there'll be breakdowns you can find anywhere. And if these are the games you're supposed to win, are we winning them? Is the program taking that next step? Because I think that's something that we did see with Buzz is once he really kind of got settled and established here with this program and how things were going to run and who he was going to be here to run it with him. We've seen that increase in end game, results. Get hosed out of the tournament. So you're right there on the cusp of that year. Almost win the NIT. Next year you make the tournament, go up against a buzzsaw shooting lights out Penn State team.
Yep.
But that's progress.
It is progress. And you have a shot at a little bit of redemption against Penn State early this season.
You do. Yeah,
Yep.
you're gonna get them in one of those invitationals or tourneys or whatever they call them.
Down there in Florida.
Yeah. So basketball is yeah, that's right, down in Florida. So basketball, a lot of excitement around basketball season. So I don't even know if my daughter's going to go tonight. I don't know how much she's into basketball, even though she played it. I don't know. Good question.
But hey,
she's got a sports pass, so if she wants to.
Hey, take advantage of it. And also, let's face it, basketball games are fun. I enjoy going out to them.
Takes a lot less time than football.
It takes less time.
Hmm.
You've got a little bit more. Honestly, I feel like a lot of input for the game as far as energy, especially when you get Reed rocking. And we've seen it
Yeah.
happen more than once, even in recent years when we've been redeveloping our basketball environment. If anybody remembers listening on the podcast, obviously going back to the Franchione years in football, a lot of people found themselves being drawn towards Reed Arena and Turgeon, and of course,
Yep.
it kind of goes on from there. You've developed this phenomenal, atmosphere over there at Reed, and it maintained for many, many, many years. I hit a lull a little bit while I was in college, picked up again, about the time that Caruso and that whole crew was cruising along. But
Yeah, and
we've
then it dropped off a touch, but and I've said this plenty of times. I'm sure I've said it on here. Aggie basketball fans are different than football. You do
Mhm.
the ones that are casual. If you start winning, they will start showing up, and
Yep.
they will start showing up in droves.
Mhm.
So, and Reed is, I think, one of the worst basketball arenas on the planet because it's really not. It's really an event center. It's really not a basketball arena.
The whole reason they built it was because of a good spot for muster, which is not a bad deal. I'm glad
No,
they did that. Of
no,
course.
and the practice stuff that they have underneath is outstanding. Like I don't think you're ever gonna, napalm Reed and start over. I think you're just gonna build it somewhere else on campus. But um, man, even as weird as Reed is for it being a college basketball arena, when it's loud because Aggies are loud.
Yeah.
So
I like the idea, and this is something a friend of mine pitched, was the idea of doing an slight off campus for the next arena, but basically put it kind of across the street from like where Harry's and whatnot is located there in the Northgate section. Is a big field out there in between there and Century Square. They said put the arena right there and make it very much dual purpose. Treat it, yes, as basketball and everything else, but truly make that like an event center for like concerts and stuff too. That it would be more accessible than maybe people trying to screw around on campus. But
yeah, I could see that, but the thing you're going to want to do is avoid sharing any sort of revenue and trying to get a community to help pay for an arena. I think one option. See, I'm pro golf course, so you're never going to hear me say to get rid of the golf course.
yeah, I don't want to get rid of the golf
But
course
on the
either.
but on the northeast corner of campus,
Mhm,
I mean, you can add a lot of parking there and still not infringe on Bonfire Memorial. And
mhm.
you just got a lot of open grass over there.
That's true.
And not to mention, there's a ton of open grass all over West Campus. And I
Mhm,
think what you can do is you put it on the fringes of campus, you can still market it as an entertainment venue. Like all that grass out by the library, like at
mhm.
George Bush in 2018. I mean, why can't you just put an arena and a huge parking lot out there?
Mhm.
And then you can market it to the community where they can come in and do things, and then A&M's making money off it. And if you ever say we're going to make money off of it in a board of regents meeting, I'm sure their ears perk up.
Oh yeah, and I mean,
But
there's plenty of opportunity to do it. I mean, just between that and of course, there are so many different either musical events or
mhm.
comedians, or I mean, you could. I'm never gonna go down that road, but maybe like a Kill Tony thing, whatever. There's a lot of options there to
Yeah,
host events and make it cool and have some fun with it.
yeah. I'd like
So
something small and boxy like Cameron Indoor too. You're not talking about something that's a little more intimidating.
yeah,
G. Raleigh White was fun because it was loud, but G. Raleigh White wasn't the best seating on the planet.
no, no, and I think having a place that it's completely encircled, maybe like a 9-10,000 seater, nothing too huge,
Yeah.
but something you could pack out and make sound good and look great on TV and create a great environment.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you want to try and stick with though, is probably staying on campus just so the students aren't like having to commute to an event. And I know it's still not that big of a deal, but when
Yeah,
given the option, students won't, I think.
yeah.
Um,
No, and I think if you get that going, I have no idea. We'll see how it all plays out,
that's
but
something so far down the line.
yeah.
Personally, I'd rather see Olson redone first.
Which allegedly is the next thing on the docket if all of the
Yeah.
renderings that have come out. I'm waiting for official ones to start circulating so we
Right.
know what we're getting into.
Some of those concepts that went around, I don't know who made them, but I thought they were really cool.
No, I love the idea of like kind of a short porch there over there and left that we're kind of seeing similar to like Crawford boxes.
Yeah, over the have a bullpen underneath, and
Yeah,
that's some
and
outdoor grilling and
yeah, and I think that'd be cool. And personally, I love the idea. I know they won't do it because of XYZ reason, but I love the idea of like putting in a berm over there on the right side and have that kind of go up and away, so you have free seating on a berm section where section 12 currently is. Actually make that a berm.
Well, I think you start running into issues with that with the actual rail system. So I know there's probably only so far that they can encroach out there. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see them put a roof over the visitors bullpen too, and make it not just a, screeching little liner that gets over a wall that can pretty much shatter somebody's ribs if they run into it.
True.
But they're not going to ask me. So
yeah.
What are you going to do?
I just show up and play and have a good time. Or I say play, yell, have a good time. But looking forward to baseball. When we eventually get around to that, I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, it's another exciting sport. And again on the ladies' side on softball, I think she's got them going in the right direction, Trish Ford. So, we'll just kind of see. But we haven't played basketball yet, so
got to get into
we'll shelf that conversation unless they start putting out drawings of what they're going to do to Olsen, and then we'll probably spend an entire episode on it.
Probably slight chance.
But yeah, man. Other than that, it's back to Texas weather.
Back to Texas weather for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, you had your fall.
Yeah.
Now you're about to get winter.
Yeah.
It's going to be that time of year, man. Just still busy, and busy's good. Still rocking and rolling over with Bach Realty Group. As a team, we're really smashing it too. So it's been really awesome because I know the market's tough. I guess it's just kind of one of those. It's how you approach it. Make solutions, not problems, right?
Exactly right. Find those solutions.
Yes,
got to do it.
Don't stay problems. You got to find solutions. So, what you guys got coming up?
Well, we have 3 really big shows this week that we're pretty excited for. So keep an eye and an ear out if you are in any of these locations. We're heading up to the Colony, north side of Dallas, just south of Fort Worth area. We're playing at Lava Cantina out there. And all of these shows are opening shows for Corey Kent, who's a big-time artist right now, cruising along. He's been absolutely killing it. Just got off of the road with Jason Aldean. And was touring with him all summer. And thanks to one particular song, he got a lot of additional exposure. So that didn't hurt matters. Thanks, Jason. But we're sitting here now with the opportunity to play these shows. So we're going to go to the Colony, play up there at Lava Cantina. Hurricane Harry's, College Station, Texas, Friday night. We're going to be there on November 10th. So
this Friday. Okay.
This Friday. So get excited.
When's the cantina? Is that Saturday?
So that's gonna be Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So we're playing Thursday night Lava Cantina, Friday night Hurricane Harry's. If you are coming out to the Harry show, doors open at 9:00. We take the stage at 10. We'll be done by 11. So if you're wanting to be a good egg and all that fun crap, we're done before midnight. Yeah. So by all means, come out here and come party with us first.
There you go.
But then Corey Kent afterwards, and he'll close out the night, wrap up about 1:00. And then we're going to finish up our run at Sawyer Park in Spring, which is a pretty cool venue. They have a new outdoor section that's very nice where we will be playing outside, assuming, weather permitting and everything. But so we got those 3 shows coming up. Pretty excited for them. And then the next week, and we'll touch on these next week as well, but we will be up at Nacogdoches there at Bonita Creek over there at that dance hall. Then we will go to Twisted J in Stephenville again, and wrapping up in Lake Hills, Texas. We're doing a show with Stony LaRue out there on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we'll be with Stony LaRue on Saturday in Lake Hills. So get excited for that. If you're in the San Antonio area, would love to have you out.
I will actually be in Nacogdoches this Thursday.
Nice.
Not to play a show though. I'm looking at 3 properties to sell them.
There you go.
So if anybody out there got any kids at in school up there, I'm gonna have some properties I'll be putting on the market up there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
yeah. So staying busy. On top of that, yeah, I've got it'll be like two kind of regular residential home, like rental type stuff.
mhm.
And then I've got one, it's a 9-bedroom home.
Woo.
Yeah, and it's kind of set up almost like a really small sorority house. So that one's gonna
Okay.
be interesting.
Yeah,
But
shit.
yes, I'm tripping on up to Knack on Thursday, Knack of nowhere.
Knack of nowhere, nasty knack. I mean, we've got a lot of different nicknames. Love that little town. Honestly, I've thoroughly enjoyed every time we've been out there. We've played a few shows there now, and always a great time at Bonita Creek. So,
Well, and so we so every morning we have like this little huddle type thing.
mhm,
Um, but um, but because of that, like I won't be getting on the road, so I'll be getting Nacogdoches about lunchtime, and I'm going to hit up some barbecue in
mhm,
Nacogdoches. So I'm very excited. I want to say it was Brendan's.
mhm,
Brendan, that sounds right. But somebody told me to go to Brendan's. So if you have another suggestion for barbecue in Nacogdoches, please let me know because I'll be up there for lunch.
mhm.
But but yeah, just a nice little day trip. Go check out some property, have a little barbecue. So
Yeah, sounds like a big win to me. I can't complain about that. So, yeah, we're just once again we're yeah
yeah,
maintaining positivity
I'm as best I can.
best we can.
Yeah, for me, it's actually maybe it's not apathy. Maybe it's just I've finally put things into perspective. So when they suck, it doesn't like it. I don't get mad anymore. I'm like,
You can't hurt me. I'm already dead
like I have so
on
many
the
other things.
inside.
Like this is Saturday. I have other things to do. Like that's fine. Whatever.
Well, and
We'll get-
honestly, that was us when we were driving back, right? We drove back from Lubbock and we were cruising along down the highway. I wasn't checking scores or anything until late. It was funny because I was scrolling along on Twitter or whatever, cruising along, and I mean, it's like the world is completely falling apart. I looked at the score; it's 20-14. I
that
was like, I was
that
like,
checks out.
it's like
Yeah,
we're down by 6 points right now, but yeah, the world's falling apart.
yeah, that checks out.
That checks out. But I mean, let's face it, A&M fans going off during football games is one of my all-time favorite pastimes to keep up with because everybody overreacts a little
A
bit.
A&M Twitter, and here you go. They're not normal men. They're
They're
not
just
innocent
decent
men.
men.
They're neither. Aggie Twitter is yeah, I don't get on Twitter anymore. Like
Yeah.
during football games. I really don't go on the boards either. Unless something
Yeah.
happens in a game that doesn't make sense to me or something very specific happens that I want to see some discussion on. But no, otherwise I try and stay off as best I can. Maybe halftime I take a peek and then generally it's just like physically scrolling and you're like, no, I don't
Mhm.
no. And it's okay, well, this is maybe later. Maybe
Maybe
Sunday.
later. Yeah. Go back and check the highlights.
Well, and I think the perfect test of my patience and my willingness to not let it ruin my weekend is the fact that West Ham started at 10, A&M started at 11.
Yeah.
So at 11, I flip the TV over to A&M and I pull West Ham up on my phone. A&M's down 1-0, or West Ham's down 1-0. They go up 2-1, end up losing 3-2. And generally that would make me want to throw things.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
That's a,
what's the point, man? I had like a great Saturday plan. I made
mm-hmm.
chili for the evening and like I thoroughly enjoyed my Saturday, despite all of my sports team's best efforts.
Did you put beans in that chili?
I did not.
That's a good name.
I am not a pro or anti bean in the chili guy.
Right.
I am if I make chili and I know I'm gonna have a lot of people over, I will make beans and you can add them to your chili.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like if somebody doesn't want beans, like I don't expect them to go through like a 6-year-old and pick them all out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So because there's plenty of people that live on that debate.
Oh yeah, and I'm certainly not one of those people.
I'll eat it either way. If the chili's good, I don't care.
I will prefer no beans in mine just as a preference, but once again, I'm not going to sit here and criticize people that do because it's up to your old deal. Yeah, you want to make chili beans,
I'm
that's your deal. You want to make
I'm a
straight chili, that's your deal.
I'm a no bean guy, but if you make chili and there's beans in it, that's not going to stop me from eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the chili's good, I don't care.
Have you ever heard, and this is a little bit of homework for you when you get a chance, William Clark Green put out a live record 2018, that sounds right, for a live kind of acoustic record they did at Cheatham Street. In that set, one of the songs he has is called the Chili Song. And it's great because he wrote that with Kent Finley, who's a longtime great songwriter in Texas. Unfortunately passed away like in 2015, 16, around there. But he wrote that song, and it was a fun little song that he got to write. And I'm trying to remember who for the life of me he wrote it with, but it's really funny. Go check it out. It's on wherever you listen to music, but
Yeah. William Clark Green should be able to find it just about anywhere.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, William Clark Green. It's called The Chili Song. Be sure to listen to the intro first and then go into the song itself. But it's really funny listening to the debate. But, yeah, so little fun. And he even says in the song as he's singing along to it, it's meant to be fun, folks.
Yeah, some people take it way too seriously, man.
Mm-hmm. That's very accurate. But
well, everybody enjoy the week, enjoy the weather. It's funny. I heard somebody say, it's like, yeah, it got a little hot over the weekend, and how quickly we change, because it was 115, 2 months ago. It got up to like 88 this week, and people were like, man, it's kind of hot. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, not super hot. I mean, it's warmer than I'd like it to be.
Did you forget something?
It will cool down this weekend, so get ready for another cold plunge, another front.
4 months of no rain and 110 plus degree heat, and you think 88's hot?
I'm about to say, for the love of God, please don't give me another summer without rain. God, I need rain. Right. That was rough.
I've given up on my yard. I think I'm just going to pave it.
Yeah. my water bill was not very happy with me. But be sure to follow us along on all of the socials. I know Roy just said he's not really floating around on Twitter, but you can still go follow him there.
No, at least not during the games.
During the games. Yeah, during the games. My bad. So go follow him over there. It's Roy May 15 on Twitter. Rob the Slapper on Twitter. We're both on Instagram. Podcast is both on there and Instagram. Making posts. Check out everything. Be sure to give us a follow. Share it with your friends. All that fun stuff.
Yeah, don't forget my YouTube channel, Ribs Real Estate and Ramblings. We had some technical issues, but those will be going back up this week. Starting this week, the video corrupted, so they're kind of going up. It's like a podcast on YouTube, but it'll still be on there, so you can at least still listen.
Yes, by all means, get out there and listen to the Triple R. We would appreciate y'all doing so. So we are very excited for a good, fun, productive week on both of our fronts. We'll see how things go in the sport world, but we're happy to just be alive. And it's November.
Hey man, go Pack Reed tonight if you're around.
Yeah, go Pack Reed, gig them, beat the hell out of Mississippi State, beat the hell out of Commerce. Gig them.
And Corpus Christi.
Gig them.